The motel clerk handed over the key to room 214. The guest signed the register, paid cash for 3 nights, and walked to his room with a small duffel bag. Security cameras captured him entering the room at 11:47 p.m. He was never seen leaving. When housekeeping knocked 3 days later, the room was empty. The bed hadn't been slept in. The duffel bag was gone. The window was locked from the inside. The door showed no signs of forced exit. The guest had vanished from a locked room with only one way in and one way out. Police reviewed every second of security footage. He never left through that door. So where did he go? That was 17 years ago, and nobody has ever figured it out. His name was Kenneth Morrison, and he's one of dozens of people who checked into motels and simply ceased to exist. Before we dive into these disturbing cases, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button, because what you're about to hear will change the way you think about staying in motels forever. Motels are supposed to be temporary safe havens. A place to rest between destinations. But sometimes, they become the last place someone is ever seen alive. Sometimes, people walk through those doors and vanish so completely that it's like they were never there at all. No bodies. No evidence. No explanations. Just empty rooms and unanswered questions that haunt investigators for decades. These are those stories. These are the people who checked in but never checked out. Let's start with the case that made national headlines in 1995. The Starlight Motel in rural Pennsylvania, a place truckers used as a stopover between Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. Nothing fancy, just clean rooms and reasonable rates. On March 8, a woman named Diane Augat checked into room 107. She was 41 years old, traveling alone, told the clerk she was visiting family in the area. She had one small suitcase. The clerk remembered her because she seemed nervous, kept looking over her shoulder, asked specifically for a room with a view of the parking lot. He gave her 107, ground floor, corner room. She paid cash for 2 nights. The clerk watched her park her car directly in front of her room and go inside. That was 7 p.m. At 9:30 p.m., another guest reported hearing what sounded like furniture moving in room 107, like someone was rearranging the room. At 11:15 p.m., a guest in room 109 reported a brief scream, cut short. By the time the clerk went to check, everything was silent. He knocked on Diane's door. No answer. He assumed she'd gone to sleep. The next morning, housekeeping found room 107 unlocked and empty. Diane's car was still in the parking lot. Her suitcase was in the room, unpacked. Her purse was on the nightstand with her wallet, ID, and $300 in cash still inside. Her car keys were missing. But here's what made this case bizarre: the room had been completely rearranged. The bed had been moved against the door. The dresser had been pushed in front of the window. The bathroom mirror had been covered with a towel. Someone had barricaded themselves in that room. Someone had been hiding from something. And then they disappeared. Police found no signs of struggle. No blood. No forced entry. The window was locked from the inside. Diane Augat has never been found. Her car sat in that parking lot for 3 weeks before police impounded it. Inside, they found nothing unusual except a note tucked in the sun visor that said, "If something happens to me, check the lake house." Diane's family didn't own a lake house. They had no idea what she was talking about. Police searched every lake property within 100 miles. Nothing. No Diane. No answers. Just an empty motel room arranged like a fortress that somehow failed to keep something out. Then there's the case of Brandon Lawson, though his story is a bit different. He didn't exactly check into a motel in the traditional sense, but what happened involves a roadside motel in Texas that became central to his disappearance. Brandon was driving through West Texas in August 2013 when he ran out of gas on a rural highway. He called 911, and the call was strange. Confusing. He said something about people chasing him into the woods, about needing cops, about someone possibly having a gun. The call was garbled, hard to understand. A truck driver stopped to help him and offered to take him to the nearest gas station. Brandon said he'd wait for his brother who was on the way. The truck driver left. Brandon's brother arrived 30 minutes later, but Brandon was gone. His truck was there, empty, but Brandon had vanished. Now here's where the motel comes in. 3 days later, a motel clerk at a small roadside motor lodge 15 miles from where Brandon's truck was found reported something strange. A man matching Brandon's description had come to the motel office at around midnight the night he disappeared. He didn't have money, didn't have ID, seemed disoriented. He asked if he could use the phone. The clerk let him. The man made a brief call, hung up, and then walked out into the darkness. The clerk thought it was odd but didn't report it until he saw Brandon's missing person report on the news. Police investigated but could never confirm it was Brandon. The motel had no security cameras. No phone records of the call. Just a clerk's memory of a confused man who appeared and disappeared like a ghost. Brandon Lawson has never been found. His case remains open. And that motel clerk still wonders if the man he saw was Brandon, and if so, where did he go after walking out into that Texas night? Let's talk about the Morrison motel case I mentioned at the beginning, because the details are even stranger than you think. Kenneth Morrison checked into that Missouri motel in December 2007. He was a software engineer from Seattle, traveling cross-country for reasons his family never understood. He had no business in Missouri, no connections there, no explanation for why he chose that specific motel in that specific town. The motel was called the Riverbend Motor Lodge, a 2-story building with exterior corridors. Kenneth checked into room 214 on the second floor at 11:47 p.m. Security footage shows him climbing the exterior stairs, unlocking his door, and entering. The camera had a clear view of his door. It never stopped recording. Kenneth Morrison never walked out of that door. But when housekeeping entered 3 days later, he was gone. Here's what they found: his clothes, neatly folded on the bed. His wallet with cash and credit cards. His car keys. His cell phone, turned off. His laptop, closed. Everything he'd need to survive was left behind. The window was locked from the inside with a security latch that could only be engaged from inside the room. The door had an automatic lock that required a key card to open from outside. There was no other exit. The room was on the second floor, 15 feet above concrete parking lot. No fire escape. No balcony. No ledge to climb along. Police investigated every angle. They interviewed every guest and employee. They searched the entire motel, including crawl spaces, utility areas, the roof. They reviewed security footage frame by frame. Kenneth Morrison entered room 214 and never left. But he wasn't in the room. It's physically impossible, yet it happened. Theories ranged from suicide, though no body was ever found, to elaborate escape plans, though nobody could explain why or how. His family hired private investigators. They found nothing. Kenneth Morrison vanished from a locked room under video surveillance. 15 years later, it remains one of the most baffling disappearances in American history. Then there's the case that involves multiple disappearances from the same motel. The Sunset View Motel in New Mexico, located along a desolate stretch of highway between Albuquerque and Santa Fe. Between 2001 and 2008, 4 different people checked into this motel and were never seen again. 4 separate incidents, years apart, all following the same pattern. Guest checks in, pays cash, goes to their room, and vanishes. No bodies. No evidence. No witnesses. The first was a woman named Maria Gonzalez in 2001. Traveling nurse, checked in for one night, disappeared. Her car was found in the parking lot. Her room showed no signs of disturbance. The second was a man named Robert Chen in 2004. Businessman on his way to a conference. Same pattern. Car in the lot, room empty, all belongings left behind. The third was a college student named Amy Foster in 2006. Road trip with friends, checked into a separate room, vanished overnight while her friends slept in the adjacent room. They heard nothing. The fourth was a truck driver named Dale Morrison in 2008. After Dale's disappearance, police finally started connecting the dots. Same motel. Same circumstances. Same impossible vanishing act. They launched a major investigation. Searched the entire property. Brought in cadaver dogs, ground-penetrating radar, everything. They found old unmarked graves on the property from the 1800s when it had been a stagecoach stop. They found nothing related to the missing people. The motel was demolished in 2010, partly due to the reputation, partly because the owner couldn't handle the investigation anymore. The land sits empty now. And those 4 people are still missing. Theories range from a serial killer who somehow disposed of bodies so completely they'd never be found, to human trafficking, to something paranormal. Nobody knows. But locals won't drive past that empty lot at night. They say if you stop there, you can still hear motel doors opening and closing. Just the wind, probably. Probably. Now let me tell you about a case that's more recent and even more disturbing because we have more evidence, more technology, and still no answers. In 2018, a man named Tyler Davis checked into a motel in Columbus, Ohio. He was 29 years old, father of 2 young children, worked construction. He'd gotten into an argument with his wife and decided to stay at a motel for the night to cool off. He called her from the motel room, they talked, he said he'd be home in the morning. That was 10:30 p.m. At 11:15 p.m., Tyler left his room. Security footage shows him walking out, getting into his car, and driving away. That should be the end of the mystery, right? He left. But here's the problem, his car was found the next day in the motel parking lot. Tyler had left, driven somewhere, and come back. Security footage shows his car returning at 2:17 a.m. But the footage never shows Tyler getting out of the car. The angle of the camera should have captured him exiting the vehicle. It didn't. His car just sits there, empty, engine off. At 6 a.m., housekeeping noticed the car had been there all night with the driver's door slightly ajar. Police were called. Tyler's phone, wallet, and keys were in the motel room. His car was in the lot, driver's door open. Tyler was gone. They searched the car. Found nothing unusual except a receipt from a gas station 20 miles away, time-stamped at 1:43 a.m. So Tyler had driven to this gas station, bought something, and driven back. Gas station security footage showed Tyler's car at the pump, but the footage was corrupted. The cashier didn't remember him. Whatever happened to Tyler happened between 1:43 a.m. when he left that gas station and 2:17 a.m. when his car appeared back at the motel with no driver. Tyler Davis has never been found. His family still posts appeals on social media. His children ask when Daddy's coming home. And investigators have absolutely no explanation for where he went. Let's talk about the cases that might be explained by foul play, but even those explanations fall apart under scrutiny. Jessica Hiringa worked at a gas station in Michigan. In 2013, she vanished during her shift. This isn't technically a motel case, but stay with me because it connects. 2 months after Jessica disappeared, a witness reported seeing a woman matching her description at a rundown motel 30 miles away. The witness said the woman looked distressed, was with a man who seemed controlling, and when the witness tried to approach, the man hurried the woman into a motel room. Police investigated immediately. The motel had no record of anyone checking in that day. No security cameras. Employees remembered nothing. Police searched rooms with consent, found nothing. The witness was certain of what she saw, but there was no evidence. Was it Jessica? If so, who took her? Why that motel? And if it wasn't Jessica, why did this woman look exactly like her and seem distressed? Jessica Hiringa has never been found. A man was eventually tried for her murder based on other evidence, but he was acquitted. The case remains unsolved. And that motel sighting remains one of the most haunting aspects. A woman who might have been Jessica, briefly visible, then vanished again. As if she was flickering in and out of existence. Here's another pattern investigators have noticed: motel disappearances often involve people who seem to be running from something. Take the case of Lisa Marie Kimmel. In 1988, she was driving from Colorado to Montana, planning to stop at motels along the way. She called her parents from one motel, said she'd made good progress, would call again the next night. She never called. Her car was found abandoned. Lisa was missing. Her body was found 6 days later in a river, 40 miles from where her car was abandoned. She'd been murdered. Her killer was eventually caught and convicted. But here's what bothers investigators: Lisa had checked into a motel the night before she disappeared. She'd paid for the room, gone inside, then apparently left in the middle of the night. Her belongings were still in the room. Why did she leave? What made her run? The killer claimed he abducted her from her car, but the timeline doesn't match. Something happened at that motel that made Lisa leave in a hurry, and that's when she encountered her killer. If she'd stayed in that room, would she still be alive? The motel was demolished years ago, but the questions remain. Now let's discuss something that law enforcement doesn't like to talk about publicly: the possibility that some of these disappearances are connected. That there might be someone or multiple people targeting vulnerable travelers at motels. The FBI has a highway serial killings initiative that tracks murders and disappearances along highways and truck stops. They've identified over 750 victims and connected them to various killers. But there are hundreds more cases that don't fit known patterns. People who vanish completely, leaving no trace. Motels are perfect hunting grounds for predators. Transient population, cash payments, no long-term connections, people traveling alone. If someone wanted to make a person disappear, a roadside motel is where you'd do it. But even this theory falls apart when you look at cases like Kenneth Morrison, where the person vanished from a locked room under video surveillance. No killer could pull that off. Or could they? Is there someone smart enough, careful enough, to commit perfect crimes repeatedly? Or are some of these disappearances exactly what they seem, inexplicable vanishings that defy every logical explanation? Let me tell you about the motel disappearances that led to discoveries years later. Sometimes, closure comes eventually. In 2003, a woman named Amy Bradley disappeared from a motel in Virginia Beach. She was last seen in the parking lot at 5:30 a.m. Her family was asleep inside. Amy vanished. For years, there were reported sightings. People claimed to see her in various locations, always looking distressed, always with men who seemed to be controlling her. The family believed she'd been kidnapped, possibly trafficked. Then, 17 years later, remains were found in a wooded area near that motel. Dental records confirmed it was Amy. She'd been there the entire time, less than a mile from where she'd disappeared. She hadn't been trafficked across the country. She'd been murdered that morning and left where nobody thought to look. Her case was reclassified as a homicide. It remains unsolved. But at least her family has answers, partial answers. She's not still out there somewhere. She's been found. That's more than families in most of these cases ever get. Here's the thing about motel disappearances that makes them particularly haunting: the spaces themselves. Motel rooms are transitional spaces, temporary homes for people between destinations. They're anonymous. Thousands of people pass through them. They witness countless stories, good and bad. And then everyone leaves and it's like they were never there. The rooms are cleaned, reset, ready for the next guest. Any evidence of your presence is erased. It's the perfect place to vanish because these spaces are designed for people to be temporary. Nobody expects you to stay. Nobody looks for you when you're gone because you were supposed to leave anyway. The transient nature of motels makes them dangerous in ways people don't consider when they're just looking for a place to sleep. Let's talk about the psychological aspect of these cases. Family members of the missing describe a special kind of torture. Their loved one checked into a motel, a normal everyday action, and never came home. There's no crime scene. No evidence of foul play in most cases. Just absence. The not knowing eats at them. Is their loved one still alive somewhere? Being held against their will? Did they run away and start a new life? Were they murdered? The possibilities are endless and each one is its own nightmare. Some families spend their entire lives searching. Hiring private investigators. Traveling to follow up on tips. Putting up posters. Running social media campaigns. All because someone checked into a motel and ceased to exist. The families can't move on because there's no closure. No body. No confirmation of death. Just endless waiting and wondering. Now here's something that will disturb you: there's a website that tracks unsolved motel disappearances. It lists over 300 cases from the last 50 years. 300 people who checked into motels across America and were never seen again. Some cases have details. Some are just names and dates. But 300 lives, 300 families, 300 mysteries. The website doesn't speculate. It just lists facts. Names, locations, dates, brief circumstances. Scrolling through it is like reading an obituary for people who might not be dead. It's a database of absence. And every year, new cases get added. Just last year, a woman in Florida, a man in Oregon, a teenager in Texas. All checked into motels. All vanished. All now part of this growing list of people who stepped into rooms and never stepped out. Let me tell you one more case, and this one is different because there's a possibility of what happened, but it's so bizarre that it almost seems worse than not knowing. In 2015, a man named David Schultz checked into a motel in rural Arizona. He was a geologist, traveling for work, exploring mineral deposits in the desert. He checked in for 3 nights. On the second night, he called his wife and mentioned something strange. He said he'd found something in the desert that he couldn't explain. He said it looked like someone had been living out there, miles from anywhere. He said he'd taken photos and would show her when he got home. That was the last time anyone spoke to him. The next day, housekeeping found his room empty. His clothes, his equipment, his phone, his wallet, everything was gone. His rental car was in the lot. Police searched his room and found nothing except one thing, his camera, hidden under the mattress. On the camera were photos from the desert. Strange structures made from rocks. Symbols carved into stone. What looked like a campsite, but no tent, just cleared ground and fire rings. And in the last photo, taken at dusk, there appeared to be a figure in the distance. Too far away to identify. Just a dark shape against the setting sun. Police searched the area where the photos were taken. They found the rock structures. Found the symbols. Found the cleared ground. But no sign of David. No campsite beyond what was in the photos. No evidence anyone had been living there. And no body. David Schultz has never been found. The prevailing theory is that he encountered someone living off-grid in the desert, someone who didn't want to be found, and something went wrong. But his camera being hidden under the mattress suggests he had time to return to the motel, hide the evidence, and then what? Leave again? Why? The case makes no sense. And that figure in the last photo haunts investigators. Who was it? Were they waiting for David? Did he go back to meet them? Or was it just a rock formation that looked like a person in the fading light? So here we are. You've heard about the people who checked into motels and vanished. Kenneth Morrison, who walked into a locked room and ceased to exist. Diane Augat, who barricaded herself in a room that couldn't protect her from whatever she was hiding from. The 4 people who disappeared from the same motel in New Mexico over 7 years. Tyler Davis, whose car returned to the motel without him. David Schultz, who found something in the desert and paid for it with his existence. These aren't just unsolved mysteries. They're reminders that sometimes, people simply disappear. No drama. No obvious explanation. They're there one moment and gone the next. And the places where they vanished, these temporary rooms meant for rest and safety, become permanent monuments to their absence. The families of these missing people want you to know something. They want you to know that these were real people with real lives. Kenneth Morrison was a father of two who coached his daughter's soccer team. Diane Augat volunteered at an animal shelter. Tyler Davis was planning his son's birthday party. David Schultz was 2 months from retirement. They weren't statistics. They weren't just names on a missing persons list. They were people who got into cars, drove to motels, checked in for the night, and never came home. They're still missing. Still out there somewhere, maybe. Or gone forever. Their families don't know. And not knowing is its own kind of death. If you're staying in a motel tonight, you're probably fine. Statistically, motels are safe. Millions of people check in and out every day without incident. But every once in a while, someone doesn't check out. Someone becomes part of this list. Someone walks through a door and vanishes so completely that it's like they were never there at all. Just empty rooms and unanswered questions. Just families waiting for phone calls that never come. Just investigators staring at evidence that doesn't add up. Just surveillance footage showing someone entering but never leaving. Just the impossible reality that people can disappear from locked rooms in the modern age with all our technology and still leave no trace behind. That's what haunts investigators. That's what keeps families searching. That's what makes these cases so disturbing. Not the violence or the obvious crime, but the absence. The void where a person used to be. The inexplicable vanishing of human beings from spaces we thought were safe and ordinary. Motels are supposed to be temporary. For some people, they become eternal. The last place they were seen. The last place they existed. The place where they checked in and never checked out. And somewhere out there, in rooms that look like every other room, their stories ended. Or maybe didn't end. Maybe they're still out there, trapped in some in-between space, neither here nor gone. Just vanished. Just absent. Just one more name on the growing list of people who checked into motels and were never seen again. Sleep well tonight. Most of you will wake up tomorrow, check out, and go home. But every once in a while, someone doesn't. And nobody ever figures out why.